Some say the trouble's in the Pentagon. Some say the trouble's in the street. Some say the president's a paragon. Where's the trouble at the bottom? Some say the trouble's the anatomy. Some say the trouble's in the head.
Welcome to our program today, Human Rights Here Now. We have a panel of local citizens who have started an interesting new program. It is called Bridging Warriors. And today's program is going to be an opportunity for us to interact and hopefully educate the community about what we're trying to do with this program. My name is Tim Woods. I'm going to be moderating the conversation. And I'm going to start off by reading the mission statement of Bridging Warriors. Bridging Warriors is a program that invites Santa Cruz County veterans, their family members, and friends to participate in dynamic activities and programs designed to foster community and to enhance health and well-being. And I'd like to start introducing the panel with the founder of our program of Bridging Warriors, Karen Egan.
Thank you.
On my left is Steve Baer, who is a retired teacher, a musician, and the president of United Veterans Council. On my right is Mark Bernhard, who is a chiropractor and runs our Qigong and Tai Chi programs. And on my far right is Matt Harris, who's one of our several movement specialists and coaches. First question today. Karen, can you describe to us the process you went through to begin this program of Bridging Warriors?
Well, it started at birth, but I just want to touch on a few points today. And that is, a number of years ago, one of my children was in a life-altering automobile accident. And we traveled the country for questions to be answered and trying to understand what happened, how we could best serve our son. And I was left with a lot of unanswered questions. And I think I lost 50% of my heart. So a few years later, I lived in a monastic living situation for a year, starting a nonprofit, and really thinking about what I could do with the rest of my life, feeling pretty wounded, and taking care of my family. Subsequently, I'm just naming the things that really stand out to me. I watched a film about the learned people of the West traveling to Dharamsala, India, to meet with the Dalai Lama, to present him with ideas that they had that he could implement in the world to make it a better place. And the Dalai Lama said, "This is all very fine and well, and thank you for coming, and I'll think about what you have to say, but I'd like each of you to go home and take care of your own Tibets." That had a big impact on me. I then moved to Santa Cruz to be closer to my children and started reading the local news, reading about our veterans especially, and the long waits they had for their checks, the loss, the desperation, the PTSD. And this is not a criticism of any institution, but it hit me that this might be a group of people that I could start an organization and support. So I investigated Santa Cruz, and vets have so many services, but I saw one specific area that wasn't being addressed, and that was a place to be social, accepted, included in, where they could get well and wellness classes, social activities, poetry, theater, any kind of workshop you can imagine. And then all these professionals came out of the woodwork and said, "I want to help. I want to be part of this program." So even though we only have a few programs presently going, we have a plethora of professionals who want to help the veteran community and their family members. Anything from EMDR to dancing to chiropractic services, teachers. We're overwhelmed with the people that want to help. And to just say a little bit more, there are thousands of like-minded people who are starting programs all over the United States, and they have been my inspiration. And I'd love to name a few of them. Wounded Warriors and Operation Surf, Rebuild Hope, and Connected Warriors are just a few of them, and they're all on the website. They're doing amazing things for veterans.
Good. I'm going to ask you at the end of the program to repeat those, because those are new names to me, and I suspect to others, so I think it might be good to review that. Right now, I'd like to complete stating the mission statement. That's our formal mission statement, but I really appreciate the personal experiences that led you to founding this, and I think this mission statement will mean a lot more to people, having heard what you just said. You have defined yourselves as a group of dedicated individuals offering classes and programs that will create a greater sense of community for veterans. Your ongoing present classes, in addition to future programs that you wish to offer, are diverse, everything from ancient Qigong to health and wellness programs to social activities such as dancing, playing music together, group drumming, poetry, and social gatherings. It's my understanding that you are sponsored by the Bill Motto VFW Post 5888, the Post for Peace. With that, I'd like to reintroduce Steve Baer, who is, again, the president of the United Veterans Council and extremely knowledgeable about the diverse community of services for our local population there. Steve.
Thanks. What do you want to ask me?
Well, first I'd like to ask you what brings you to Bridging Warriors, and what do you think your unique contribution to this program is?
Well, I always wanted to be on community TV, and when I met Bridging Warriors, I thought, there's my chance to be on community TV. Here I am.
Here you are.
On community TV with these wonderful, intelligent, sensitive people. Well, I was reading the paper over breakfast, and I saw this wonderful little article in there that said Bridging Warriors was offering free yoga for veterans. And I'm a Vietnam veteran, and it was nice that somebody was reaching out to Vietnam veterans. It felt personal. And I came and I met this lovely person here, and I was on the floor, and she came right up face to face with me and said, "How'd you get here?" I said, "Well, I read about you in the paper," and I picked up on her energy right away. She wanted to do something good. She wanted to communicate with people and heal. Not only maybe heal herself, but heal those around her as we work together, healing. Then I met Matt. Matt was giving this dynamic class, and he came up and gave me a bear hug. And from then on, I was convinced that Bridging Warriors was a place where I could feel comfortable, where I could feel as if I could say what I thought and felt and express my pain and my joys and my elation with being alive in this kind of crazy, screwed up world we're part of. So after about a year, I had been involved in the veterans community for over 30 years. And the building closed down, and a bunch of steadfast veterans kind of hung in there. I took an R&R on that one. I stayed out of veterans politics until we had been at the Resource Center for Nonviolence. That's where we'd met. And that attracted me, too, because I've always been a lover of Resource Center for Nonviolence, what they do, who they are, what they stand for. And Scott Kennedy, the wonderful late Scott Kennedy, I always considered him a very close friend. We went to the same church, and he was one of the few peace activists who could look me in the face and say, you know, a lot of us didn't want to go to Vietnam because we were scared. You know, there were real other reasons. And matter of fact, I love you. And that felt good, so here I am at the Resource Center for Nonviolence. I'm being offered something that is special for me, and then I meet these wonderful people. At any rate, at the Resource Center for Nonviolence, we moved. When the building opened, I got back into veterans politics, became the United Veterans Council president again for the third time. And the veterans were happy to invite us in. And they've been kind and decent to us, We're trying to get more participation from them, what we'd like. But in the meantime, that's brought me here to community TV, so perfect circle.
Thank you. Mark, you have volunteered
Yes.
to work with this organization, I believe, fairly recently?
A year ago?
A year ago?
A little over a year ago.
A little over a
Okay.
year.
And you're bringing in your expertise as both as a chiropractor, as an instructor of Qigong and Tai Chi.
Correct.
If you could, please, could you expand on that and how you see that benefiting the population we're trying to serve?
Mostly what I'm doing with Bridging Warriors is Qigong and Tai Chi. I met Karen through my chiropractic practice, and she approached me one day with this idea that she had, and it happened to coincide with a time I've been teaching Tai Chi for about 4 years. I've been practicing about 15 years, and I had had a number of people come through my regular classes with Santa Cruz Tai Chi, as the name of the organization, name of the school, because they had heard that Tai Chi was good for Parkinson's, which it is. It's good for a lot of things, which we'll get into later, I'm sure. But so I had experience of a number of students who came with that express purpose of improving their Parkinson's, improving their balance with Parkinson's, and the actual Tai Chi class was too demanding for them. It was just too much for them to deal with. So I wanted to, I've been thinking about, well, how can I reach this population in a way that facilitates what they need at the level that they're at. And Qigong differs from Tai Chi. Well, actually, Qigong is a large term. Gong means work, so it's working with energy. Qigong, working with Qi. And Tai Chi is a form of Qigong. But standing Qigong is what I've been teaching with Bridging Warriors, with just a slight introduction of some basic Tai Chi stepping. But so I wanted to, I had just finished this, a new book came out last year called The Harvard Medical School Guide to Tai Chi. It's a great book. I recommend it to anyone who's interested in Tai Chi, but he talks about a program that he developed for this type of a population, for seniors that can barely stand up, people with Parkinson's, people with PTSD, people with traumatic brain injury, stroke victims. So I sort of modeled it after that. And so basically what the class is a Qigong primarily, and you can do Qigong sitting, you can do it standing. So depending on who's in the class, I do a little bit of both. And I'm just only introducing a little bit of stepping and weight shifting, which seems to be the problem. But the class is geared towards individuals who have difficulty with balance or would like to improve their balance. This includes pretty much anybody my age or older. I'm 65. I went on Medicare last year, and balance is a huge issue. If you read the statistics about balance, which you can do on my personal chiropractic website or on the Santa Cruz Tai Chi website, there's an article about balance, and it's a huge problem, and so anyone is welcome who wants to improve that or maintain what they have.
Yeah. Give our audience, which will, the lingo for your website.
Okay, well, the Tai Chi website is santacruztaichi.com. My chiropractic website is drmarkbernhard.com.
Good. Spell your last name, please.
Bernhard.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's going to be fun for me to introduce Matt Harris, our next panelist. I came to Bridging Warriors after I'd been invited to join by Karen, recruited me because I've led a lot of men's groups for many years, men's therapy groups. And that was why I was invited into this organization. And I was told about a class called Into Flow. which I had never heard of, knew absolutely nothing about it, and started attending and found it fascinating because it was unlike anything I'd ever done before. It's not yoga. I'm not even going to try to describe it. I'm going to have Matt do that. But it is a movement, body, energy-oriented art that is unique and extremely beneficial. So Matt Harris, again, could you take it from there, and how do you see your skill set contributing to serving our veterans community?
Wow, yeah. It's really as fundamental as we all share a body, right? We all lie down, we all sit up, we all stand up, we all walk, we all squat, we all pick things up, whether it's a gallon of milk or a kid or a kettlebell or whatever the heck it is. We have that common denominator between all of us. It's our body. And what do I see, not only in the veteran community, but just in our community, just in our nation, really in westernized civilization in general? We're all shaping to this guy right here, this chair.
Would you say that again?
We're becoming shaped to our chair. So, again, it's a fundamental thing, is just postural structure. Sitting is great, sitting is wonderful, but we need to kind of sit with some alignment. The Tai Chi Qigong instructor knows about the internal pressure of our body, right? We have an external expression of an internal pressure. The same thing happens with someone who is experiencing anxiety, someone who's experiencing a fundamental separation from feeling like their body can connect to the physical world in the way they want it to, right? Pain does that. Pain takes away our ability to really be who we are, if I'm going to break it down to something simple. So anyone who's been through war trauma, anyone who's been through, let's say, a robbery, a rape, anything, I mean, it could be, for me, it was emotional trauma, you know what I mean? It was mental stuff. It even had to do with just being domesticated into this particular society that we're in. We all share this kind of stuff on some level. And movement, it's being backed up by science now, is an amazing tool to start to rewire our brain. I find it amazing. I know that I'm a different person than who I was, let's say, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and we all can say that to a degree. I find it even more fascinating when I get feedback from individuals who don't recognize me, individuals that can't tell, well, that was you? My brain's sharper, and it has nothing to do with anything but just moving with a certain kind of awareness. And that's for you guys all take the class. I haven't taken your class, you haven't taken mine yet, but the fundamental thing I break down is however you want to move your body, do it with a certain kind of awareness and intent. You'll start to rewire yourself. The trauma is stored in there, right? When we're hurt, we guard ourselves, right? A boxer even gets stuck in this position. What's the boxer protecting themselves from? Damage, incoming damage, right? The same exact thing happens to a person who's traumatized. They shape like this. They're covering, they're protecting, right? It's understandable for some of the things some humans have gone through to want to be. The founder of this whole system, Scott Sonnen, amazing human being, abused largely throughout his younger life, understands the primal stress of this shape very well. Veterans who have been explosions going off, right? Anything like, they understand this shape. So that, again, there's the commonality in our nervous system and our physiology. Our experiences are different, yes, widely, but our physiology, our neurology is really the same, really the same. There's, of course, a spectrum, and there's, of course, genetic things and things like that, but it's fundamentally the same. And
so what I hear you saying is, regardless of whether it's the dramatic trauma of combat or a car accident or a rape or these horrific experiences we all know about,
right?
It has in common with, like in your own case, an emotional trauma, where we start shutting down, and it literally will manifest in our body.
I totally feel that way.
And this includes individuals who've witnessed these events.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very widespread.
Yeah.
We can become traumatized just by having someone we love who's been traumatized. It's something I've learned recently.
Out of what you just said, Matt, I think it's really ironic. We have a big homeless population here, and if I watch individuals walking by a homeless person, they actually demonstrate some of the same mannerisms as the
Protect yourself.
Protect yourself. And
Sure.
how do we let that barrier kind of drop? I know we're concerned about personal safety, but if we keep excluding, we're heading down the wrong road.
That's a deep question, and I think you're asking a question that hits on something deeper than even a societal thing, right? This is about how we protect ourselves from even feeling how we actually feel sensitive towards that individual who's on the street. I do. If I see someone who's in a bad way, yeah, I can have a mind that may be able to throw some judgments out there, but what do I feel? I feel for that individual.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Mm-hmm. That may not be the common, but that's how I feel. And I know that if I take on that shape, it's because that day, for whatever reason, I need to guard myself from letting myself go there, which isn't a good thing. And it's a deep question that you asked. And from a movement perspective, as a movement therapist, I would say, open up, right? Open this up and see what happens. See if you can. I used to be overweight, so I hated having my chest out because I had man boobs. It was embarrassing to me. So I would hide. I'd wear sweatshirts and I'd hide. There's another emotional guarding, right? Don't see that part of me. I see it in tight hips, right? Sexual shaming, which is, again, cultural, societal. Movement can work us through this.
Well, what you're doing is a tremendous metaphor for what Bridging Warriors is trying to do, and that is change from inside.
Mm-hmm.
Do that change. The Hindus tell us that we've all designed our lives in a certain way, and we can redesign our lives. And I think what you're letting everybody know, especially a traumatized veteran, I mean, we walk around with all this stuff going on in our bodies and in our minds, and how do we redesign our perceptions? How do we redesign the way we sit and the way we walk and start all over again? It's very exciting. It's been exciting for me. I'm 91 years old. I mean, does it work? Sure it does.
No, it's been awesome watching you change, though. I mean, everyone who's been going. But as I've noticed, I can tell you go home and do it.
Well, and it incorporates with my spiritual journey quite well.
Right.
You know, that if I'm going to be thinking about Vietnam all the time, and if I'm going to think about all my trauma and manifest that out all the time, I'm tired of that. People don't like me when I do that, you know, and I want to be loved. I want to be calm. And so you have to redesign not only how you think and feel, but redesign how you move, especially when you get to be my age. We wind up moving in this sort of reckless way. We don't focus our intentions on how we move and how we breathe and how we speak.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful for me. It really has. Like I say, at 93.
And he's grown 2 years.
Did I get 2 years older?
What do you mean by moving in a reckless way?
Well, we disregard that every motion we take takes some sort of collateral movement. When we get out of the car and we make this motion, well, something's happening over here too. We're stretching the right side of our hip out pretty severely. And then when we learn to get out of the car in a reasonable, supportive fashion, and so what happens to so many folks our age, we wind up with all these strange injuries, and we can't figure them out.
The reaching back injury.
Yes, or this injury winds up hurting something up here, and we're not aware of that. And of course, I think that's a big part of what you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you noticed the theme of people get hurt when they pick up the pencil, not in the gym?
Well, of course, but that's not obviously from picking up the pencil.
Right, but it's interesting how that's when it occurs. And that's what I think Steve was hitting on with the reckless movement.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of what Qigong and Tai Chi does, is you learn how to move from the center and from a rooted, whether you're sitting or standing, rather than unconsciously. It brings you into your body.
It's the mindfulness.
So it's the mindfulness. I mean, Tai Chi is really a mindful moving meditation is what it is. And so that's Qigong. I think that's one of the main benefits, is it gets people focused on their body rather than their mind and their head. what they're thinking about and just ignoring from the neck down. I like to say that Tai Chi and Qigong is you're overhearing a conversation between your body and gravity. And you're listening. You're, rather than thinking about something else, trying to be in the present moment. What is your body doing? What is your body feeling? What is your body telling you? What does it feel like to sink into the ground rather than constantly feeling like you're fighting gravity? So that's why I wanted to ask you about the reckless movement. I didn't quite understand what that meant. But
well, in my case, I've always been kind of a strong fellow, so I'll just reach and pick something up. Right? What the heck? But the older I get, the more I recognize that I'm not able to do that anymore. And if I go about my tasks, all of my tasks, in a more mindful way, and it's been really beneficial for me. How does Qigong help a wounded veteran? Some kid who comes back from Iraq or Iran, or the Vietnam veterans are still struggling like crazy.
Well, I think the main thing is getting out of your thinking, getting out of your thought process into feeling, which may not be pleasant. I mean, there certainly in Qigong and Tai Chi, certain people have emotions that come up anytime you're letting down this, you're talking about projecting out and opening up. That can also be still a guarding or defensive posture rather than being soft and vulnerable, which is what Qigong and Tai Chi is about, yielding, about how close can I, especially when we do, which we don't do in the Bridging Warriors class, but an evolution of Tai Chi is what's called, it's two-person sparring, pushing hands, where you allow someone to come into your space and redirect their energy rather than opposing. In Tai Chi and Qigong, we never oppose. We always yield, accept, redirect. Many martial arts have that in common. So it can be painful for someone with deep emotional trauma to open up to that extent and let down the guarding and the defense. You can be moving and be very expressive and in your body, but not in a listening capacity. And I think that's what Qigong is primarily has to offer to the vets or anybody, is just spending some time listening to your body, not thinking, getting out of, being in the present moment, not in the future with thoughts, plans, fears, anticipation, not in the past with regrets, shoulda, coulda, woulda kind of things, but what's happening now with my breath, in my body, in gravity, in this place. And that by itself, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment if you can do that, even for a few seconds. But it's very powerful.
I'd like to add that so many of these modalities, including Tai Chi, EMDR, EFT, meditation, they're all backed by the American Psychiatric Community, Department of Defense, the VA. The VA, amazingly enough, has a program online that any person can take, and it's about understanding PTSD and how to work with people with PTSD. So I wanted to put a plug in there for the VA that they're trying to catch up.
But the idea of being fully present, this is one thing you did so beautifully when I first became a part of Bridging Warriors. You would take folks who were more severely challenged than I was. I came in a regular middle-class guy, and we talked like from that level right on. But you took people who came in who were struggling, and you gave them a lot of presence. And I think that's also a metaphor for what you two gentlemen are doing. You're saying, be here, be right now, be aware of what's going on. And yeah, you'll cry sometimes, and you'll have to deal with that stuff. You did a wonderful job. You continue to do a wonderful job that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope the audience is getting the impression that what Bridging Warriors is about is a whole bunch of things. We work in a lot of different modalities. I don't think it has been said here, but I want to put it out, and if I'm mistaken, please correct me. We really are trying to build kind of a community center of alternative treatment modalities to help people who've gone through, horrific experiences. And we know that human beings without community are not doing well. Isolation is very bad for human beings.
Right.
Acknowledging that there's a huge spectrum from the person who needs to talk and interact with people hours a day to the person who needs 40 hours of alone time a week. There's a very broad spectrum there, but without community, people get emotionally way out of whack. And we are trying to be one more, in addition to all the other veterans programs, we're trying to be another service where veterans can come and their family members, where they are enhancing their community experience.
I'd add that it's also unique that there's no paperwork, right? No one has to ever put their name down. There's never a dollar put anywhere unless someone wishes to donate, right? And I think thirdly that we are looking to network with everyone that wants to help. Any organization, any individual we want to plug into. I have a friend in Kenya. A lot of NGOs will work on one thing. They'll focus on one thing, try to fix one thing, and that's brave. Everything's holistic in life, as far as I can tell. Everything's an ecosystem down to the body, out to the community, like you're saying. So I feel like that's another dream we have, is to plug in everywhere.
That's a good point. I think there is a certain amount of urgency about reaching out into the community, and my heart's been warmed by the VA in Capitola, Dean Kaufman with Veteran Services, Cabrillo College, they have 300 vets there, UCSC. We're all starting to form kind of this synchronicity and trust, which is really important when you start an organization like that. So very appreciative of that.
And you'll include the Veterans Service Office, County of Santa Cruz?
Yes, Dean Kaufman.
In the Veterans Memorial Building. And the WASP program every Wednesday that meets there and brings veterans in. And I know right now everybody has a lot of ambivalent feelings about VA and this sort of thing. And I can understand why it's a big, huge bureaucracy, and it can always be a mess, but frankly, VA's done a pretty good job for me. And there are a lot of advocates out there in the world for veterans who are doing a great job, especially right here in this community. And I think what you touched on is so important, that nevertheless, you can't do everything. You can't go into a government office and get community. You can't go into a government office and paint with oils. You can't go in and dance. I think what we're trying to do, and what we've kind of shifted toward, is how do we offer a social medium for people where they feel more comfortable. And right now we're down in the Veterans Memorial Building in the lower level, and we're hoping to utilize that for more types of activities that are kind of outside of the sphere of the typical services that
We've got one. We have one lined up so far, yeah.
Oh, we do. We have a couple of different things lined up. We've got Jim Greiner is coming next Saturday.
Yeah.
Jim Greiner's a local percussionist, and he's going to lead a community drum coming up this Saturday afternoon.
And veterans are free.
Veterans are free.
With proof of service.
And the Veterans Yoga Project is going to be coming in July. And we have classes. We have NA classes already down there. We have therapy sessions. We have our classes. And so we're very excited about trying to find a place where we can be an integral part of the veterans community.
I'd like to just say something about the Veterans Yoga Project. Dr. Daniel Libby founded it in Connecticut 4 years ago, and he builds a program around building resilience regarding your trauma. And originally, he was teaching only yoga teachers to work with people with PTSD, especially veterans. And now he's broadened that. And the last training that he had here in Santa Cruz, which was full, was over 3 days, a Friday night, a Saturday, and a Sunday. It was quite a success, and now he's coming back at the end of July. I think it's the 25th, 26th, and 27th of July. And anyone is welcome to come. Anybody in the healing arts. We had a psychiatrist, we had teachers, we had veterans, and we had yoga teachers in that class. So we're really excited about him coming back, and that is another partnership that we have.
Okay. Wanted to ask you, Karen, you've been open for over a year now.
Mm-hmm. We opened in March of 2013.
Okay. How many veterans do you think have benefited from Bridging Warriors?
Well, first of all, I want to preface that with, it has been an enormous challenge to get veterans into our program.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Libby echoed that as well.
Yeah. It's a group of people that are, I mean, it's like the HIPAA law. They're protected against people just contacting them. So it's a kind of a sticky wicket for us how to get veterans into the program. And your question was, how many people did we help in the last year?
How many veterans? Yeah.
Well, I think significantly about 20. And when we first started, we had a physician on board. And he refilled vets' prescriptions. He gave them alternative health suggestions. He had a big impact, Dr. Paul Hoffman. He's no longer with us because he's promoting his book. But he really helped a lot of people. And these two classes helped quite a few people. We're in our infancy. We're building. But I mean, I listened to Dean Kaufman a couple weeks ago, and he said, if one veteran walks in my door today, I'm happy.
Yep.
And so
that's exactly
that's
it.
how I feel.
If you can just help a single individual, you served.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Without betraying any personal confidentiality issues, have anyone who's been part of Bridging Warriors had a one-on-one conversation that's particularly moved you, inspired you, worthy of repeating for our audience?
Well, Karen, you had a conversation with Steve, I think, who's in the Qigong class the other day before class, and this is a vet who has Parkinson's, and he's been coming to class regularly, as far as I can remember, and he practices every day. He does the Qigong, and one of the other vets in the class, Dean, made a DVD of me leading the class and made copies for all the people who were in the class at that time so that they could practice at home. He said one of the things about Parkinson's is the inability to initiate an activity, and to just have it written down or to try to remember it from the previous week, it wasn't working for him. So he needed to have a DVD that he could watch, and so he made this and passed it out to the class, and Steve uses it every day. Says it's improved his balance, it's improved his state of being, basically, and that's what the purpose of the class is.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
I'm very happy.
Yeah. He said if you had a class every day, he'd be there.
Yeah.
And that it has significantly helped his balance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure if your question was conversations between us or those people who've benefited.
The latter, of people who we have actually provided services for, and I was curious what kind of feedback we're actually getting from people, that because we have had a hard time attracting as many veterans as we would have liked. It's been very slow, but we have provided services too.
We've provided services for not only vets, but just everyone. And perhaps that's the most significant feedback that I've gotten are from people who needed to move and needed help moving. Some vets needed a ride to VA in Palo Alto. I have a veteran who calls me weekly, who can't always make it to the classes because he runs out of money. I'm constantly talking to veterans on the phone. Do they specifically say what they are benefiting from? It's kind of an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but all of these have turned into ongoing relationships with you, right?
That's community.
And again, there's that community connection.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
Without which every medical condition gets worse.
Yeah.
Isolation.
My wife admitted to a small crush on Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
She's pretty cute too.
she is. I
Yeah.
know. Leave her alone.
Oh.
I wanted to clear up a couple things. Earlier, I said something about my relationship with Scott Kennedy, and I mentioned that he said some of us were afraid. I want to make sure I cleared that up. I didn't mean to imply that anybody who opposed the Vietnam War was less brave than those of us who went and served. I want to clear that up. And then I mentioned the building about when I said I was a veteran, I was referring to the Veterans Memorial Building here in Santa Cruz. And that's where we're located. I think we need to reiterate that. We're right in the heart of things now, and finally feeling as if we're integrated in the veterans community. And I think we owe them a big bunch of thanks too. A lot of the folks that you mentioned are now looking at us as real players and people who are sincere and concerned about what we're going to do in the veterans community. And we should give a shout out now to all veterans out there and let them know that the facility's there for them, and that there are lots of people on their side.
Yeah.
Lots of good people working very hard on their behalf.
Would you echo, Karen? Tell me if I'm wrong, please. If we can get more people in the door, we can bring in more professionals and more programs.
we have poised about 15 different people who want to give their specialty to bridging warriors.
And
whether it's art, poetry, EMDR, EFT, all these healing modalities. We want to make it a thriving community in the bunker of the Vets Memorial Building.
Yeah.
Yes, we don't have a shortage of help.
No, and the schedule's open now.
Yes.
It's this beautiful window we have right now in the Memorial Building, where there's a schedule that's open waiting for something to fill it.
We have 17,000 vets approximately. Well, according to the 2013 census, it was 13. I would guess we have about 17,000 vets living in Santa Cruz County. And we would just invite you to come out. We want to be part of your community.
Mm-hmm.
And family and friends, correct?
Yep.
And family and friends, yes.
Yep.
And the building is a place where veterans can feel special. It is specially designed and built and dedicated to them. And that's a nice thing in this day and time,
Mm-hmm.
to feel a little bit special.
You bet.
Hey, what brought you to Bridging Warriors, Tim Wood?
Karen Egan brought me to Bridging Warriors.
Common theme.
I see, yeah.
She heard, I don't know how she heard, but she heard that I lead men's groups, men's therapy groups, which I've done for about 30 years now. And group therapy in the counseling field is, in my opinion, grossly underutilized. I've said this for many, many years. With the exception of someone is on the verge of literally going psychotic, or someone is acutely suicidal or acutely homicidal, or they're in a major, like, couple marital trauma. Those people need their own unique services. But most of the things that bring people to therapy, I'm of the opinion that I think group therapy is actually better. And people say, well, why do you think that? I think that because you have usually 6, 7, 8 people in a therapy group. So the amount of experiential, emotional resources in a group is staggering. And I don't care how good the head of the counselor is, one head is never as good as 8 heads.
Right. Legion.
And the breadth of experience never ceases to amaze me. There's a lot more support, emotional support, that you get in your group, because again, there's 5, 6, 7, 8 people there, than you get one-on-one. It's more like real life, group therapy, because again, you're dealing with a range of personalities and differences of age, sometimes race, sometimes sexual orientation. And unlike one-on-one therapy, where you may be talking about an issue like trying to think of a good example.
My husband cheated on me.
Well, you're always going to find that one in a women's group. You're going to find, or my wife cheated on me more in the men's groups. I
The hell my wife's going to give me when I come home after I did that job. That's going to be a problem. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. So it's almost never the case that somebody raises an issue in group therapy where like no one can relate to it. Almost always there's one or two or three or maybe five people who say, oh yeah, I went through that. So, you know, if I just am trying to recover from an affair and Matt went through that experience 5 years ago and I'm open to what Matt has to say, that's a great asset for me.
Yeah.
And just like we know in studies of school children where they learn more from their peers in the group than they do from the teacher,
Right.
the same thing is true in a therapy group. It's a different way of learning than it. One of the things I also love about group therapy is it de-idealizes the therapist. There's a lot fewer projections of the therapist as the wise person, the guru. And I'm not saying therapists don't have their talents and abilities and expertise, they do. But, you know, we're not magic figures and we don't have divine inspiration from Mount Olympus or anywhere else.
Well, it sounds more like the shaman.
Well, yeah, and I think personally, there's a place for shamans, I think, but the kind of group therapy I'm doing is much more humanistic.
So
Sure.
are you ready to have group therapy in the bunker of the Vets Memorial Building?
I've been ready since day one.
Yep.
And we have not had a critical mass of veterans who've come for that. And but I'm a patient man, and when we do, we'll start a group, and I'll start a group with 2 people.
Well, in the meantime, the group therapy I did with Vietnam veterans with Dr. Lucretia Mann out at 41st Avenue was extremely valuable. I could go somewhere and talk to somebody I knew they were going to understand where I was coming from. And that's what we'd like to offer. Have you met Chris DeMaio, Dr. Chris, or Mark Salmon yet?
Yes, I've met both of them now 2 or 3 times.
Have you?
And we've had very open conversations, very candid, very frank.
About?
Well, about my being someone who might be in a group leader role with veterans. They both have vast experience doing that. They're both combat vets themselves. I am not a veteran. I have worked with combat vets before, not hundreds of people, but a handful. I'm not a stranger to dealing with combat trauma, but I haven't had, you know, vast years of experience of that.
I have a question. I mean, what do I have in common with a veteran? I mean, where's the commonality?
You have a heart.
You care, exactly.
Yeah,
You're a
but
human
there's,
being. You're a
there's
human
this
being.
big division. I often hear that veterans feel like I haven't been on the battlefield, and I haven't been on their battlefield, but I've been on my own battlefield.
Well,
Right.
I've never met a vet that sidelines someone for that. I've never met a veteran who's like, oh, you don't understand. They might just plainly say, there's no way I can explain this to you, really, if you haven't maybe had that experience. This isn't my experience. But I've never had the experience of a veteran sidelining anyone because they haven't fought.
I want to comment on that in a sort of a larger context. I've worked with plenty of women in my 38 years of being a counselor who've been abused, physically, sexually, been raped. And I'm never, as a male, going to understand what it's like to be a woman walking down the street and have to be worried about getting raped, or what it's like to be raped. I'm not even going to pretend I can really empathize with that, because I can't, any more than I can truly empathize with people like Steve who have been in live combat zones. That's a blatant lie. But what I've learned is when the person who's in the helper role, the healing role, really cares and is doing their best to understand, that's actually enough. That they're present, they're not faking it, they're not shouting platitudes. And people have in my experience, people have extremely good bullshit detectors. And you won't find anybody who's more on the side of trust your intuitions. You can feel if someone gives a hoot or not, or are they just going through the motions. You can tell by their voice tone, the look in their eyes, what they're energetically putting off. And in most cases, that's enough to help somebody. So.
Yeah, ultimately you can't fool anybody. And I believe that it's going to be an asset for you to not be a veteran, because you won't carry any baggage in with you. You won't carry a bunch of projections in based on your experience as a veteran, which I think is going to be a real asset for you.
Well,
I hope so.
There'll be, what will be good, I think, would be if I, as a civilian, can lead some veterans groups. You know, our community of veterans have choices. They can go to a veteran-led group, or to, if they're willing to experiment with a non-veteran like me. And we've also had some women therapists who've expressed some interest in working with Bridging Warriors. You know, you get different things from different people when they're in those roles. So I want this community, one of the things I like about Bridging Warriors is it's how eclectic it is and how diverse it is. So I think we're walking the talk.
Cool.
We've got about 5 minutes left, I think, folks. So trying to bring this conversation to
Goes fast.
to a close.
There is one thing I'd like to clear up. Bridging Warriors was invited by the Resource Center for Nonviolence to open its doors there on Ocean Avenue. And then a few months ago, Steve Baer, who's been with Bridging Warriors since the beginning and also led music groups when we first started, he invited Bridging Warriors over to the Vets Memorial Building, 846 Front Street, to join Bill Motto's post to offer all these services. So if there's any confusion in the public, we did move. And thank you very much for inviting us. It's a great opportunity.
Well, I believe people are very pleased with what's going on so far. No, I know I'm certainly pleased, and it certainly is great to reflect with you guys on these themes of building a community and these themes of being balanced, and the idea that someone can simply care. In your case, as a therapist, I don't think you need to be a veteran. For me personally, were I to work with you, I'd appreciate that you were there and you were not a veteran. That you had that added layer of compassion and desire to help me.
Well, you know, when you start getting to this level of conversation, you're going to remember every individual is different. And I don't have any issue with some combat vet who took the position like, I only want to be in a group led by a veteran, a combat vet. I can readily imagine if I had been in combat, knowing myself, I probably would want that. But maybe, who knows where I'd be in a couple of years, or maybe I'd done a bunch of work like that, and I might soften up and get out of my head so much.
Good.
In the time we have left, Mark, I wanted to ask you, you've obviously done a lot of this. Can you say more how these body-oriented arts that you're doing, Qigong and Tai Chi, how that heals emotional injuries?
The actual mechanism, I don't know. I can't tell you.
Does anybody know?
Daniel Libby's got
I think
good stuff.
I think the just the act of bringing attention into your body, bringing attention into the present moment by itself, acting with intention from a place of calmness, a centered place, is very therapeutic, and is therapeutic to the people you interact with. Getting out of your head, talking heart to heart, like you were just saying. The bullshit detector, you know, recognizes that as a heart-centered place. And just having that interaction helps the other person, helps you. So I would say that neurophysiological mechanism is not known. People have theories about it, but it's a practice. Tai Chi, Qigong is a practice, and the only way that you find out about it is by practicing. You don't find out about it by talking about it.
Well, Bridging Warriors would like to be that heart-centered place for young veterans especially.
Yep.
That place wherein we can comfortably share our pain and our joys.
I want to thank Community TV for having us on, and especially Gail Williamson. And I'd just like to say to the audience, I really invite you to look at our websites, participate in our programs, share with the veterans that you know and your communities what we're doing. If you have something special you can give, come on down, give me a call. That would be great.
Okay. We're going to need to wrap up pretty soon. I want to reintroduce the panel because it's hard to remember names when you haven't known them before. Again, Karen Egan, our founder of Bridging Warriors. Steve Baer, President of United Veterans Council. Mark Bernhard, chiropractor, Qigong and Tai Chi instructor.
Websites?
And go ahead, give them again, please.
drmarkbernhard.com and santacruztaichi.com.
And Matt Harris, our TacFit instructor and IntuFlow instructor and many other motion.
It's an amalgam for sure.
Amalgam of coaching and areas of expertise.
Amalgam motion, I like that.
Is TacFit on the screen?
It should be in my little logo down there, TacFit
Okay.
Field Instructor.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Again, we really appreciate SCTV for giving us opportunity for the Human Rights Here and Now program. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
That was pretty good.
Smooth.
Some say the trouble's in the Pentagon. Some say the trouble's in the street. Some say the president's a paragon. Where's the trouble at the bottom? Some say the trouble's the anatomy. Some say the trouble's in the head. Some say the trouble's the psychology. Where's the trouble at the bottom? Trouble, trouble, where's the trouble? Oh mama, where's the trouble? Got a headache, seeing double. Where's the trouble at the bottom? Trouble, trouble, where's the trouble? Oh mama, where's the trouble? Got a headache, seeing double. Where's the trouble at the bottom? Some say the trouble's with the principal. Some say the trouble's with the kids. Some say the trouble's the curriculum. Where's the trouble at the bottom? Some say the trouble's in the textbook. Some say the trouble's in the class. Overall, the school board bugging up. Where's the trouble at the bottom? Trouble, trouble, where's the trouble? Oh mama, where's the trouble? Got a headache, seeing double. Where's the trouble at the bottom? Trouble, trouble.